you on this week's Parshas, Ve'etzchanon, something very nice from the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Yitzchok Zatzal. In this week's Parsha, we have the mitzvah for mezuzah. In connection with mezuzah, explains the Rebbe's father an interesting zoya. The zoya says, in Chelek Aleph Daf Reish Lamed Ches Amud Beis, it brings the posuk that we say every Friday night in Eishes Chayil by Kiddush. It says, Leisida Leveiso Mishaleg, the woman of the house, she's not scared of the snow, the coldness. Why? Kichol Beiso Lovush Shonim, because everyone in our house is wearing scarlet. That means they have garments to keep warm. That's a simple meaning. Comes the Zoyar and says, interesting play on words, that instead of reading the word Kichol Beiso Lovush Shonim, which is scarlet or red type of fabric, you read it Shnayim. Kichol Beiso Lovush Shnayim. In the house there's a double, there's two. So the Zohar explains, in every home, by the door, you're supposed to have two mitzvahs. Or we have two mitzvahs. One is mezuzah, and the other side is Ner Chanukah. As the Gemara says in Shabbos, one side you put the mezuzah, and the other side you put the Ner Chanukah, the lights of the Chanukah. What's the connection of mezuzah and Chanukah and the Ner? The Rebbe's father has a very lengthy explanation. I'm just going to focus on one interesting point. He brings down, explains the Rebbe's father, the meaning over here, that if you look in the end of Parshas Vayishlach, something we spoke many times, it speaks about the descendants of Esau, and it describes over there, Ve'eila HaMalachim, these are the kings of the nation of Esau, and then it spells out 7 kings, first one called Bela ben Beor, etc. And then it says the 8th king. Points out this in Zoyar and in Kabbalah and Chassidus, many places, that if you look good at the first 7, it says by each one afterwards, number 1, they died, Vayomois. Number 2, it doesn't mention that they were married, doesn't mention their wives. However, the 8th one, here it says his name was Hadar, and his wife was called Mehetavel, and it doesn't say he died. Explains Rabbi Yitzchok, what says in Kabbalah and Chassidus, that Hashem wanted, it's called Loy Toyu Bara Ela L'Shevetz Yitzorah. The main function of a person, one of the main functions is that every person should establish a home, a bias. That's through a husband and a wife together. And that's a true home, how Hashem wants both for Yidden and for Goyim, especially for Yidden. That's called tikkun, a normal, organized, proper life when a person builds up a family. And that's why the first 7 is known as called Olam Atoyu, a world of chaos, no structure. And that's why Vayomais, ultimately that doesn't last. There's no purpose in that. But the 8th king, he's from him, even though he was a goy, it started Olam HaTikun. Many hints about this with this king Hadar and Mehitavel. Says the Rebbe's father that this is also what the posuk is telling you over here. The Zoya, Kichol Beiso Lovush Shonim. Every Jewish home is established on a marriage with a husband and a wife, and that mirrors the relationship of a Yid and the Eibishter. The Eibishter is considered the Ish. We are considered the Isha. We receive from the Eibishter. The Eibishter is the one that gives us. And together we have a relationship to Torah mitzvahs. And that's what the Eibishter wants. And this is the hint that every home should have right away on the door a mezuzah and a Ner Chanukah. Rabbi Yitzchok says a very interesting thing. The Zohar says, and Kabbalah brings down, that the first 7 kings over there, we call them those 7 people, 7 And if you take the 7 times Odom, Odom is, the numerical value is 45. 7 times 45 is 315. And you take number 315, that's exactly the same gematria as mezuzah and the neir. Mezuzah is 65, neir is 250, together 315. So Hashem specially made that the numerical value should be of mezuzah and neir should be 315 to tell you that this is the proper way of the tikkun. This is going to correct the chaos of those 7 people, the 7 kings of the world of Toyu from the children of Esau. We are the children of Yankov and have Torah mitzvahs. And just to conclude, Rabbi Yitzchok explains that this is the meaning of mezuzah and neir. It says mezuzah protects you from negative forces. We all know what the Rebbe brings down. Shakai, Shin Dalad Yud, we have on the mezuzah is Shoy Medalsis Yisrael. It protects, it guards, it watches over the homes that no negative forces should come in. Mezuzah, we said before, also adds up to 65. That's the same gematria as Dina, Dalad Yud Nun Aleph, which Hashem says, I'm going to bring judgment, no negative forces should come in here. And Neir is light. That's the positive. Whenever you bring up a home, there's 2 parts to it. You have to make sure there's no negative forces come in. That's the mezuzah. And also you have to bring positive energy, and that's the neir. And together we build a home and we establish it where Hashem wants, and that's the true bias. And this is what the meaning of the words leisido. The woman says, I'm not scared of my home of negative things. Why? I have 2 double over here. The opening of the home is mezuzah and the neir Chanukah. We have the protection from the negative, the positive energy we bring into the home, and together we have a wonderful established home the way Hashem wants, Olam HaTikun, and not in the way of Olam HaToyah, the chaos, hinted in the Gematrias 7 times Odom, the opposite from the 7 kings, who they were from the negative forces.